Live. Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is the CODTACULAR podcast, episode 3. We've got, of course, Young Willie style, BigTymeR joining us as always, my co-host. And today we got a special guest joining us on Discord via London, Mr. Doug Censor Martin, the strongest gamer to ever touch Call of Duty. Do you agree with that title? Do you think it's true, Douglas?
100%.
100%.
Especially out of pro players.
Would Sky take offense to that, or
Skyler's stronger than me for sure.
Was he stronger when he competed, though? Because you're still competing.
We got to talk about when you're a competitor. I think I'm definitely the strongest guy who ever competed in Call of Duty.
I like this. This is a great start. For those who don't know, Doug Censor Martin was one of the earliest champions. He won with Next Threat in, 2011?
Correct.
National champ back then. I found out he was a local boy. I'd bring him on my esports report from Major League Gaming. And then like a year and a half, he went from skinny nerd kid wearing glasses to all of a sudden the most jacked gamer I've ever seen, and he lost his neck. Doug, since you began that mission, tell us how did you get to where you're at right now? How many YouTube subs are we sitting on?
Well, like 2.6 million or something like that.
Just a small amount, just 2.6 million. The channel you're watching right now, youtube.com/Puckett, is sitting at 2,000 strong, guys. We are growing every minute. We're going to get to Doug's level. Doug, real quick, though, for anyone who didn't know your Call of Duty past, can you give us a quick synopsis? Break it down. Where did you start? Where are you at right now?
Call of Duty for me started when I was 12. I had a friend named Tyler in my hometown, and he had Call of Duty 4. And I was always really big into like the Mario, Super Smash Brothers, and Pokemon games and Zelda games too. And I didn't want to play those first-person shooters because I thought they were just a little bit too intense for me. And then when I started playing Call of Duty 4 at my friend's house, I fell in love with it right away, and it immediately became my favorite game. So then I got into playing World at War a lot, and I was the number one guy on the leaderboards and the public leaderboards because I'm the type of guy, like when I really like something, I just devote all my time to it. So I instantly fell in love with Call of Duty. I wanted to be the best. And then by Modern Warfare 2, I started competing. And then by Black Ops 1, I started competing at a professional level and going to tournaments there. So I guess the climb for me was about 2 years, like from starting Call of Duty and getting into it to playing at the top level against people like Will. And the other guys are really good as well. And my passion for Call of Duty and competitive was always something I loved. And I always loved sports too. So for me, I would always compare this video game that we're playing right now in this professional league to a sports league. And when I heard about franchising this year, it was something I definitely wanted to be a part of because I'm a really big sports guy, and I love football and basketball and team sports and just like winning with a team. And winning with a team in Call of Duty is incredible as well. So if I could do something like this and not get injured, like in football where you get concussions and you break bones, or in basketball where you tear ACLs and you still get concussions too.
It's a non-contact sport, our Call of Duty world.
Yeah, it's a good one. It feels secure, and it feels, feel like I could live a healthy lifestyle with this. And, there's also a lot of negative things that come with it too, and a lot of negative, unhealthy lifestyles that come with gaming. And that's also something that I'm really active and keen on changing too. So I just want to be at the forefront of just changing the way competitive gaming is seen in the public eye, changing the way that we nutrition ourselves as players, and just changing the whole landscape of the scene and just growing it at the same time.
Doug's that game changer. Change it for good. Let's go back to the start, though, because right before we went live, you were telling BigTymeR that he used to intimidate you. What's your history with BigTymeR? Because this is one of the few times on the podcast we could say you guys competed at the same time.
Yeah, Will was, Will was in like a bubble of his own, man. Like this guy was at the top tier, right? So like I was a guy who was kind of like working my way up. And I'd see someone like Will all the way at the top. He was always on like the most popular team, playing with the best players, like winning at the highest level. He was like funny. He was charismatic. He was well spoken. So for me, like I didn't think I was really that well spoken, or like I didn't really felt that I had that much to offer at the time. So I kind of like was too intimidated to like walk up to him and say anything to him. And I was always embarrassed by that. But as I started growing up a little bit more, I was a little bit, easier to just socialize with people. But honestly, like Will and I, we don't really speak that much. So when I see Will, it's nice. We say hi, we say what's up. But other than that, like Will, we don't really talk that much, dude.
We don't, but look, you are a very well-spoken guy. You're great at COD, and I love what you said about just passion in general and becoming obsessed. I think a lot of people don't realize, like, to make it to the level that you're at, winning a national championship, but not just in COD, everything you do, whether it's COD or nutrition, weightlifting, YouTube, like, I relate to you a lot in the sense that whenever I start to do something, I get completely obsessed with it and I just go into my own little world and you just don't stop until you achieve it and you see success in it. So I can really appreciate that same type of mindset, and I think it's important. It's definitely overlooked in today's world, I think.
You guys are two of the most driven human beings I know, and I love it. Super pumped to have you joining us. Doug, as we mentioned, is coming at us live from London right now. The reason we brought him on the show is he's part of the Subliners crew that is going to be competing in London in the first ever tournament format for the Call of Duty League. When we launched things in Minnesota, we had preset matches, but now the format is a little bit different. But before we get into the format, I want to talk about the location because we are going back to the Copper Box Arena, and we were here, Doug, in 2014. You and I were there back when Gandhi was casting. I think it was Benson and BryceTacular on the mics, but you were playing for FaZe Clan in the Copper Box Arena back in, what was it, Call of Duty Ghost?
Correct.
So for anyone who hasn't been there, for all the Americans who will be tuning in and seeing the Copper Box Arena for the first time, what is that arena like? What is the atmosphere in that place?
It's very close. Like the stands from where we were playing on the main stage compared to where the fans were sitting down was relatively close, more close than normal arenas, especially the Armory. And the Armory, by the way, is gorgeous. We were there, last week. It's an amazing arena. Actually, it's my favorite one I've been to. Copper Box is up there for me, though. Every time you go out to London or the UK, for example, we're at Birmingham a couple of years ago, the fans are just so passionate over here, Chris. And I know the Copper Box Arena is going to be crazy. I know it's going to be sold out. I know that the fans are going to be really excited about it. Any event that you go to the UK and you play in and you compete in is always one that's going to be remembered because we only get one of these a year, I think. And every time we get one, all the fans over in Europe really want to show out and show face and rep their teams, whoever it might be. So I'm really looking forward to this weekend. I can't wait for Saturday for our first match versus Paris. And I just can't wait to see how it all unfolds because, this is tournament one, right? So
they get buck wild over there in London, man.
Yeah,
the thing is, though, like back in the day, they would choose, whatever teams they wanted, whether it be NA or. But now that it's, a franchise league and there's a London team, are they only going to go buck wild for the Ravens and everybody else just gets completely shit on? Or what's that dynamic about to be? I don't know.
I hope they're booing everybody. I mean, they were yelling, "Shut up, Maven" at the last event in Birmingham. Yeah. So I feel like, honestly, I'm watching this weekend because I want to see, is London the best city for Call of Duty? The UK seems to be very strong. Birmingham seemed to be one of the most lit events of all time. But does London show up the same way they did back in 2014 where we didn't have a seat available? It was every seat in the front rows were taken in the lower level. Every seat in the sky level was taken. I think London can make a statement this weekend. And I'm kind of with you, though, Will. I think we're going to see a lot of London fans supporting the Royal Ravens. But then you got the people that have been watching old school Call of Duty. Doug,
that's true, yeah.
When you've been out and about in London so far, do the fans seem to be only on the Ravens side, or are they showing love to the American players as well?
I think they're really passionate about the scene in general, honestly. I don't think that I think they will boo teams. For example, the Gorillas, I think they're going to get booed very heavily, especially after what happened in Minnesota.
Okay.
I think they're very current. I think they like to follow the storylines really well. And I think they're going to be cheering the loudest for London, for sure. I don't think there's going to be any homestand in the league, even New York, and I'm from New York. I don't think there will be a homestand as loud as this one in London, just because I know how important it is to them, and I know the passion that they have for the game. So I think the Gorillas are going to get booed heavy. Other than that, I feel I'm cheering for every single team that's here, honestly.
Feeling some heavy boos. Well, there is an opportunity to see the London team 5 times as we go to London this time around, because in the new format, we're using a bracket that used to be called the GSL style brackets, where you split up your teams into 2 groups. Half of the teams will advance from the group play into a single elimination tournament. And for me, it's one of the best bracket systems of all time. But it's pretty simple stuff because you can choke in group play. If you win twice, you're through to the bracket. You lose twice, you're out. And every single match you're playing is basically going to be 10 points towards your team's score. So for a team like the Subliners, Doug, you guys didn't win a match in the Minnesota event. In both of your matches, you lost your one against FaZe. You were able to take the domination, but you're coming in with 0 match points. So how big is this weekend for the Subliners team in particular?
It's very important for our team. it's really important to us to bounce back. We have a relatively easier pool as the other one, but you can't take Paris lightly. These guys, they showed up in Minnesota. Everyone had them ranked at last because they weren't able to get practice versus North American teams. Paris is no joke. They got a lot of great players on that team, a lot of great players that going into this season I thought were going to perform really well, and they seem to show that in Minnesota. So I expect the same thing out of them going into this. Toronto has a couple of team roster changes that they're making. You got Bance coming in as a starter for Metals, who was playing really well, and then you obviously have London, who beat us 3-0. So I think you have to go into every single match and give every single team, no matter how good or bad that they are, whether it's Atlanta Phasers at the top or one of the bottom tier teams, the same exact respect. You have to think that they're going to be the best, and you have to play at that standard. You have to expect these guys to come out and play the best Call of Duty ever, playing the most structured, winning all their gunfights, doing all the right things. If you could expect that, and then you could start adapting to that in your head as you're playing, it'll help you play the best you could play. So coming out with Paris, we have to win that match. It's a really important match. We want to be able to win that. We want to be able to play the winner of Toronto versus London. We want to advance to that group. We want to get to that Final Four, win 2 more series, and win the whole thing. But it's one step at a time, and it starts with Paris at 11:30 London time. So it's going to be a lot, and I think our boys are going to be ready for it. They put in a lot of hours. They know the mistakes that they made at Minnesota. I don't think they're going to make those same mistakes again, and I think they're going to come out with a lot of energy.
Will, have you guys talked at all about, last week we talked about some of the teams and how they were going to utilize subs. You're obviously you're a dedicated, Call of Duty player and decorated. You can play at this level. Have you guys thought at all or talked about strategy in terms of you coming in, whether it be in certain game modes or certain maps that you're good at? Because I follow you on Twitter. I know you've been grinding the shit out of the game. It's got to be hard for you with that obsession and how competitive you are to sit back and watch. I know the feeling. So are you dying to get in there and play some matches? Or
yeah, I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't. I feel that if I was to step in, I would be able to win our team games instantly, of course.
Right.
I think that's the thing that makes me who I am, but at the same time, it's a very slippery slope, Will. And if you're the 6th man on a team and you got starters in front of you, right, and they see you and you go off and you do your thing with you, and then you try to come back to Call of Duty, they want you to put in your work. They want you to put in your hours, right? They're not just going to want to hand you things like that. And they also don't want to lose their spot. So it's a very slippery slope of respecting the starters on the team and respecting the organization, but also showing them, hey, listen, I'm not no joke. I'm not here to just take a paycheck and do nothing and just be a little bench warmer cheerleader for you guys.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes throughout the season. Regardless of if our team's winning or losing, it's not going to change the approach that I have. I'm going to act as if I'm a starter. I'm going to prepare as if I'm a starter because you never know when you're going to get your opportunity, whether somebody gets sick, which you see from time to time. If there's something wrong with the team, if a team wants to play with you, it doesn't matter. You don't know. And it's also something that we haven't discussed because I don't feel comfortable just impeding on these guys, texting my head coach or my owner or the players yo, what's up, man? Let me play. I'm putting these hours. Look at what you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you got to let the actions speak for themselves. You got to let the passion and the charisma that you have as a person show who you really are. And regardless, I know my time is going to come either way. So whether it happens in London or if it happens in a month or it happens in 6 months, it happens in a year, regardless, I know what's going to happen. So that's just the mentality that I like to have.
No, that's the right mindset to have for sure.
What role are you going to bring to the team? If you ever get into the starting lineup, what is the ideal position that you would be playing in the game? Uh-oh, we've got a frozen Douglas.
He's in London.
Calling from the cell phone. We're going to get Doug back in here any moment. Will, we got to keep this going, though, because I got to take a look at the groups, and I have to ask you, what do you see when you look at Group B? We got London Royal Ravens, New York Subliners, Paris Legion, and Toronto Ultra. Who is the favorite in this group? Who do you place second? Is there a toss-up? How do you see this one playing out?
If I had to do it 1 and 2, I think both London and Paris, in terms of just having some sort of home field or homestand advantage, I probably put those in my top 1 and 2. Probably Royal Ravens at number 1. That would be my 1 slot. Just after watching Weskins play, I'm really excited to see him. Paris Legion, like Doug was saying, very underestimated. I don't think people are going to take them lightly now that we've got a little bit of games and film to watch these guys on. I don't want to put the Subliners in last in that group just because Doug's on the stream tonight, but I'd probably have to put Ultra at 3 and Subliners at 4 until something, is proven. So
Okay.
that would probably be my 1 through 4.
We got Doug back. Doug, when you guys talk about it as a team, how do you see the group ranking? Even before we look at how the individual matchups are, who is the toughest competitor for you guys to win Group B?
Oh man, to be honest with you, I think Paris. I
Paris
think Paris is
Legion.
the toughest team. Yeah, I think Paris is gonna be the toughest team. It's no disrespect to London because they came out and they beat our butts in Minnesota. They beat us really convincingly. Um, I really think Paris is going to be the hardest team, and the reason is because of Zed. I think Zed and Kismet, those kids are X factors. I've said it all along. In World War II, when I had to play against that kid Zed, I couldn't beat him. He was so difficult to play against. He's so unpredictable. Even if you watch VOD on the guy, he still does things that you just aren't going to be able to predict on the map. And I really like Kismet. Like coming into this game, he was a player I really wanted to play with. I vouched for him. Nobody wanted to pick the kid up. And I'm like, this guy's going to be really good, man. Like, why aren't people giving him a chance? He says all the right things. He's passionate. He has great gun skill. He's great at S&D. Like, this kid's going to do things. And he's showing it in Minnesota. I think it's a very close 1A, 1B with Paris and then London right behind them, especially since they're going to have the whole crowd behind them. I do think it plays a factor. Um, they have a lot of really experienced players on London too, but I definitely think Paris, and especially because it's our first match. You know, we came out of Minnesota, we played flat versus London, we played phase, we had a little bit more intensity, we still lost.
Yep.
We haven't won a game yet, and Paris is going to be that first test for us when we go over here. So, first match of the entire tournament, great team, and I think they have a very pesky team, and they're really hard to plan for. So, I think Paris is going to be the hardest match. If we can get past Paris, I think we're going to be in really good shape moving forward in the tournament.
Have you guys done a lot of VOD review on Paris? Because this is a team that went to Game 5. They're not known for cinching up a series 3-0. So where do you feel like their strengths and weaknesses lie?
I think their strengths are in their search and destroy. And I don't know because I don't go into the office with our starters every day, but I do know that they watch a lot of VOD. So I think it would be really crazy if they didn't watch the VOD on them in Minnesota. I'm sure that they did because everybody on this New York squad are really professional about their craft and they're really dedicated to what they do. And I know that Bob was going to make them watch their VODs. So I'm sure they're going to have strategies and I'm sure they're going to have a game plan for this team. I do think they are, like I said, a very pesky team, though. So even though our team on paper has like better respawn players, you can't count those guys out on Paris Legion because Shox has been a great top sub for a long time. Denz has been putting up numbers for a long time. Kismet seems to be their star. Zed's pesky. And then I don't know anything about Luca personally, but from what I hear, he's one of the best players in Australia. So
Yeah, he had a big come up year last year.
yeah, and so they're a great team as well. So yeah, I think if we can win our search and destroys, we'll be in good shape versus that team.
Let's take a look here at Group A. As I bring this one in, Chicago Huntsmen, Dallas Empire, LA Gorillas, and the Seattle Surge. Just off the top of your heads here, fellas, who do you think is going to be the strongest team in this group? Is it without a doubt the Huntsmen?
In my opinion, I mean, looking at some of the more detailed stats and analytics after the first tournament a few weeks ago, they're stronger than I thought they were, especially considering like the caliber of teams they were playing against. Their stats individually and just from what I saw, like their teamwork is really on point. So yeah, I think I'd be lying if I didn't say Huntsman is probably the strongest team in that group right now.
Doug, go ahead.
I think Dallas is the strongest team in that group. And the reason I think Dallas is going to win that group is because I remember when I was walking into the venue in Minnesota, I saw Pat Aches, and he looked at me and he's like, "Yo, Doug, I'll put fist bumps on you. That Chicago will beat Dallas." And I was like, "Pat, you're crazy. Dallas is going to win that. They've been the best team online. They're going to win."
Yeah.
He's like, "No, man, I guarantee you Chicago's going to come out and win that game." Sure enough, they went out and they won it. I think Chicago is great. I think they're a top 3 team with Atlanta and Dallas. But I think that the Dallas team is going to come back stronger. I think that they're going to be pissed that Seth and Formal were screaming in their faces after they beat them in Minnesota. And I really do think that Dallas has an amazing squad, and they highly underperformed in Minnesota. Well, I don't know about you, but my first LAN was MOG Dallas in 2010 or 2011.
Yeah.
And I played on that main stage versus Leverage, was the best team at the time. Dude, like we lost last map 6-5, but I can't I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't nervous. I couldn't imagine being someone like Inder walking out on that stage with all those fans out there, and you had this walkout and they're announcing your name. And then for what was it? Shotzi went 7-35 on domination.
Yeah.
They had that whole new patch. Like I think this team is going to come back with this new patch. They're going to have these really good 10 days or so of practice. And I do think Dallas is going to win the group. I think Chicago will come in second. I think they're going to make it out. But I do think Dallas highly underperformed, and I think that they're going to have a completely different game plan coming into this event. I think they're going to beat Chicago.
Yeah, if they could be a little more settled in, I could definitely see that. And I agree. I think it was Puckett. Were you casting in 2009? You did cast the COD 4 national
just the
championship.
finals. Sadly, it was same time as Halo every single weekend.
So that was like my first experience, kind of with the lights and, the people actually watching. I think it was Backlot Search and Destroy was the first map for whatever reason. But I distinctly remember my hands shaking while I was playing. Like I was so nervous. And it wasn't until like that first map was over and we kind of got into the respawn and really like the next year, like it took a few tournaments to really like settle down and just pretend like I was playing from home. So yes, for sure. If their biggest issue is that they were just a little nervous and they settled down, they'll be scary for sure. But yeah, I think Huntsman Empire got to be 1 and 2 in that group regardless.
I see a lot of people in the chat saying that Illy and Shotzi are going to choke again. And Will, you said it took you a few events before the nerves went away.
It did. I had support back then too, so I can't imagine. Like it just depends. We talked about it. I don't. First episode, like, do they take a lot of? Do they put a lot of weight in what people are saying about them, and how do they react? I think it's like very individual. It will mess with some people's mindset if they're just scrolling through Twitter and they see hundreds of people telling them they suck. They're just like, if they're not mentally strong players and people, they'll be like, wow, maybe I do suck. And if I do bad this time, wow, it's going to get even worse. And then I'm going to get dropped and I'm going to lose my salary. And like, it can snowball really fast. So I don't know if they're like that or if they're, taking the other approach and they're getting pissed off and playing harder and coming out with something to prove. I think that's the mindset they need to have, but I don't know. We got to wait and see how they play.
Looking at our first matchup, we're going to have Seattle Surge versus the Dallas Empire in this group. That is going to be going down at 7:30 a.m. Eastern. It'll be I believe the second match of the tournament. So let's talk about this one in particular because it's 2 0-2 teams, which I think is really shocking to a lot of people. If you looked at the preseason predictions of where our teams are going to end up, it's going to be a very interesting start for both Dallas and Seattle. Who wins this one in a best of 5? Who's the stronger team straight up? Because the Surge went 4-6 in Minnesota, and the Empire clearly having tougher competition with FaZe and Chicago, just 1-6 in their opening 7 games.
It's definitely the Empire. Dallas Empire had to play the 2 best teams in the league, FaZe and Huntsman. I don't think there's any teams right now that could have beat FaZe and Huntsman at Minnesota. Dallas really had it tough. They had players that played in their first tournament on LAN. You had Inder, who I am very, very keen on Illy. I think he's going to be an incredible Call of Duty player for years to come.
Why?
I watch this guy. He does some incredible things, man. I haven't seen a player like this kid in a very long time. And I take pride in spotting talent. I think Illy is one of the most incredible players, and I really love this kid's mentality. He always wants to improve. He always wants to get better, and he doesn't like excuses. And I think if you have those 3 things, you're going to be a very successful player. And plus, even though Dallas did go 0-2, they still are an incredible search and destroy team, and that's obviously something that Seattle's lacking in. I don't think there's enough practice in the world that would make Seattle be able to beat Chicago or beat Dallas in 2 S&Ds. Like Dallas would really have to come in and play flat, and Seattle's going to have a lot of things that have to go their way for them to win 2 search and destroys. And when you can't win a certain game mode that takes up 40% of your series, it makes it incredibly difficult for you to win, especially when you're playing against a team like Empire, who is also really good at respawn.
So did he come from the S&D world, or where did he come from exactly?
Yeah, he came up with like Simp, Celium in the S&D world. He's been around since I think Black Ops 3. Yeah, he's been a great player for a long time.
Will, what are your expectations for Seattle in this event?
I keep looking at this roster and I got it pulled up right now and I see Karma, Enable, Octane, Slacked, and Apathy. And I look at that and I'm just like, they have to dominate. That has to be one of the best teams in the league. So I keep thinking, on the surface, yes, they lost both their matches in the first tournament. But like you said, they were both 3-2s. It's all going to be up to their S&D. Hopefully they spent like the last 10 or 11 days solely focused on that. Cause like Doug said, it's 40% of the games. Like it's one of the most important game modes you can play or be good at. So if you're god awful at it, you're going to have a really terrible season. So hopefully they spent a majority of their time practicing that and getting some good reps in. But we'll see. I think with that roster, they need to, and they should expect to be better. So
I'm looking at the top 10 leaderboards, and I'm just trying to find any players from this Surge squad. Didn't look like anyone had a fantastic event.
for KD or for what stuff?
Just KD in general. I'm looking at Surge. I'm looking at hard points. I'm trying to find out what was going well for the Surge squad. Clearly, Search and Destroy was not their game. That's where they had their big troubles, especially in the game fives. Doug, how quickly can you tweak Search and Destroy as a pro player, especially knowing that we're still in the first 3 months of the game's lifespan?
It's going to be even more difficult in the beginning of the game as it is towards the end of the game, I feel.
Really?
I
Okay.
think it's going to take a team like Seattle a lot of practice on Search and Destroy to be able to compete with one of the top teams in Search. Just because there's a lot of timings, tendencies, and a lot of vibe that they haven't been able to experience yet. And when you have to go off players' natural tendencies, natural players that aren't really good and have a knack for Search and Destroy, and they're going to take more time than any other player to adapt to the game and to learn the mode in general. So I personally just don't think that the team is built for Search and Destroy. And I don't think there's any amount of coaching or practice that's going to make them built for it. The only thing that I can say is that I do think that these players are better as the season goes on. So is there a chance that they could come out and win a tournament? Yes. Is there a chance they could win the world championship at the end of the year? Absolutely. Like, these guys have done it. They've been there before. Karma's won 3. Applebee's won 2. Octane was the best player last year overall, but arguably him and Simp. So yeah, as the game goes on, this team will get better, but they're in a struggle situation right now because, just like our team, they didn't win a series last event, and it's looking tough for them in this event too. So it really just depends on how much adversity they're going to want to go through as a team, how much they're going to be willing to take the punches as a team, and how confident they're going to be able to be with their own team in general.
Okay.
Because you know how it is when you lose, Will. When you lose, you got every pro player gossiping about you. You got a guy on the other team that's doing really well, talking crap about one of your teammates to one of your players, and it gets in his head, and it might say something to the other guys on the team. You don't want any of that noise. So if these guys can tune out the noise, be professionals, and stick through with it, I think they can be a good team by midseason. But as it stands right now, I don't think there's enough practice they can get to be able to win Search and Destroy, especially versus teams in this group. I mean, Chicago's going to be a great Search team. Dallas is going to be a great Search team. Gorilla's best mode is going to be Search and Destroy. It's going to be really hard for these guys to win a Search and Destroy on that.
I'm looking at some weird numbers here, and I hope I'm reading this wrong, but it says the Seattle Surge had 11 first bloods in 15 rounds of Search and Destroy versus Florida. They lost both of their games. 11 to 15. So are you saying they had the man advantage, or are they getting picked early? I feel like what I'm reading is they had the man advantage, and they
had the man advantage is how it's written. Yeah. So, I mean, at that point, it's just got to be coming together as a team and not falling apart. I mean, whenever you have man advantage in S&D, it becomes, you need to stick together and you need to trade kills. It's pretty simple. So it's probably just a breakdown in communication, whether that's, not enough practice or what. They've only had 2 weeks. So, I mean, like Doug said, it's probably going to take, a little bit longer than that to really get it down. But yeah, we'll see. If they're getting first blood, I mean, they're starting the rounds correctly. You know what I mean? They just got to clean it up and just communicate with each other.
When you're looking at this matchup, are we all saying that it's going to be Dallas Empire that is going to walk away the victor?
I think so, yeah.
3-1, 3-2, 3-0. Censor, how's it play out?
I think Empire's going to win that 3-0.
Empire wins it 3-0.
Yeah, I think they're going to win that 3-0.
Hot call from Doug. All right, I'm bringing back up Group A. So Dallas Empire beats the Surge 3-0 or 3-1. We're looking at now the Chicago Huntsmen versus the Gorillas, because this will decide who plays Dallas Empire for spot in that bracket. Huntsmen versus the Gorillas. Where can the Gorillas take games off of the Huntsmen?
Will, you want to take that first?
I mean, I was looking at some of the Gorillas team notes here. I mean, look, they rank 10 out of 12 in KD. They rank 11 out of 12 point KD. So if they're going to take any games, it's got to be the Search and Destroys. But Huntsman, they're a strong Search team. They're great in Search. They're great in Respawn. I would be really surprised, unless it's just first day could be anything. You get to an event, I know they're getting there early and they'll warm up and everything, but the first day and the first series that you play, I don't care what tournament it's at, it can go either way. But I'd be really surprised if the Huntsmen didn't come out and just kind of stomp on them a little bit in the first match. I'd be guessing a 3-0, 3-1 victory for Huntsmen here.
3-0, 3-1. Doug, where you at with this?
I'm going to have to say it's a 3-1, but the respawns are going to be close. And the reason why is because of Ricky. I think Ricky is a great search and destroy mind, and I think this team is built for search. I think JT is one of the most underrated search players in the game. I don't think he gets enough credit. I think Pat's extremely clutch. I know it firsthand. Aqua is also a great search and destroy player too. You got Lacefield, who's not, he's a selfless player. Lacefield's the type of guy that if you told him, hey, on Ramaza, bottom mid, like I want you to run out in front of me and challenge something, and I'm going to get your trade, he's not going to second guess you. So I think this team is built to win a search and destroy. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think the Huntsmen could lose the search and destroy like 6-4, 6-5, but I think the respawns are going to be a blowout. I think Gunless is going to have an incredible series. That guy is one of the most consistent Call of Duty players I've ever seen, and he's great in respawn. I think this Gorillas team is a team that gets outslayed a lot, and I think Gunless likes to feast on people like that. So if the Huntsmen were to lose the map, it would be a search like 6-4 or 6-5, to be honest.
Okay. So Huntsmen across the board, we're assuming here over the Gorillas. Huntsmen 2-0, the Gorillas 1-1 coming into this matchup. And looking at that match, that would be Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern for anyone who wants to catch the Huntsmen's first game. The next match, I don't know what time they're going to do it because it's either 5:30 a.m. or it's 12:30 a.m. 12:30 p.m. on Sunday. And I'm hoping that they'll save the winner's match for the 12:30 spot. So let's talk about that loser's match, which may be going down 5:30 a.m. Eastern time. That would be, according to our predictions so far, Seattle Surge versus the Gorillas. I feel like this is a much closer matchup, and if Seattle isn't on their game, I can see the Gorillas actually taking this one. Will, you've had a chance to look at some of the numbers. Are you fully on the Surge side?
I've got to be. I'm not giving up on them yet. Look, I've played with some of those guys. I've played against some of those guys. I'm not giving up. I'm not going to put too much weight into what I saw a couple of weeks ago. I'm definitely going to go with the Surge in that matchup.
Definitely going Surge. Doug, how do you see this one playing out? If the Surge match up against the Gorillas in the elimination match, who walks away with 0 points?
I'm going to have to say the Surge are going to win that with Will. I think this team is just too talented to not win a series in four matches that they play.
No chance.
They have too much talent on that team. Like, they're going to have to figure something out. There's going to come a point in time with this team, if they lose their first two matches in Minnesota and their egos get slammed, and they come into this and they lose their first match, there's going to be some form of a team meeting where they're just going to scream at each other and really just going to get in each other's faces and just say it how it is. Because I played with Damon before. The dude screamed at me when I was doing the right things on the map. I can imagine how Damon's going to act when his team hasn't won a series yet.
Right.
Like, I just can't see a world where this team loses because, all right, like you lost to some good teams. I get it. Your search and destroy isn't there. I get it. But when you come out and you play the Gorillas, like this is a team that you could definitely outslay and respawn. Search and destroy, it's not going to be close, but this is a team that you should be able to win all the respawns convincingly versus. Not to say that the Gorillas are horrible at respawn, but this is what Seattle's good at, or at least in history. This is what all these players have thrived in is respawn. So I'm looking for players like Octane and Enable especially, and Apathy too, to step up and Slack. These guys, Karma's going to do good in search. He's going to clutch up, but this is a team that has to win the series 3-1. I can't see any other world where they win the search versus Gorillas unless they come out and they just don't want to play. But I can't see Seattle losing 4 games in a row. They have to win that game.
Have you watched Surge play at all over the last couple of weeks online, or are they streaming much of their matches?
Seattle hasn't been streaming anything, but from what I hear from Brian, they're looking a lot better in search. And
good.
Yeah, Brian tells me how it is, so I believe him, and I hope that they can come out and do well because Brian's my favorite player I've ever had on my team, and I want him to be successful. But this team, I think that they're going to take a long time to get good at search and destroy. But I do think that they would beat the Gorillas.
Can we talk a little bit about Apathy here, Doug? Because my question was who is the strongest player on the star-studded lineup for the Surge? Because I think everyone was shocked to see their opener. We expect a lot from such a veteran lineup, but where are the strengths, where are the weaknesses on the team right now?
Octane is definitely the best player. I mean, he's been incredible since Advanced Warfare. He's a really hard player to replace. That guy could do it all, especially in Search and Destroy too. I don't think he gets enough credit. He's a walking turret, man. I mean, that guy's a problem to play against. He's always going to be consistent. He's always going to be a great player. He's going to be top of the leaderboards all the time. He wins all his fights. He gets a lot of trades. The guy's incredible. I think their problem is just their search and destroy. I think that they're just getting in their own heads. And like I said, I just think it's going to take a really long time for them to fix something like that. And it's going to be a big issue for them because, especially with the league being 12 teams and every team top to bottom being really solid, everyone being able to get VOD on each other as these tournaments play out, it's going to benefit Seattle a lot because nobody's going to be watching Seattle's VOD and search and destroy. But Seattle could watch teams like Paris's vlog or VOD when they beat them last map 6-5 in Ramaza, or Toronto, I'm sorry, beat them last map 6-5. They're going to be able to go back and watch those VODs and see what went wrong for them. And maybe they'll be able to make adjustments this weekend. But right now, I think the only thing that's their problem is their own egos, their own heads, and their own search and destroy. And those are things that you could work on. Those are things you get better on as the season goes on as well.
You said Apathy was your favorite teammate of all time. Why is that?
Because Brian and I were in the same spot when we were coming, we're freshmen in college. We're in the same exact spot. We met up in a Black Ops 2 event where I wanted to come back to Call of Duty. We were both in the same position. We're both on teams that weren't that good. We both wanted to make a name for ourselves. We both wanted to win at the highest level. And we both had the exact same mentality. And it's one thing to have somebody who has the same mentality as you. It's another thing to have somebody who has the same mentality as you and actually execute with you when the highest moment comes. So I consider him a brother for life, He's the type of guy I could look at in the eyes and say, yo, Brian, we got to go win an event together. Like, how are we going to go do this? Like, who do we need to get on our team? And we'll be able to make it happen just because we've done it so many times before. He always is going to show up when the moment comes. He's always going to be an amazing teammate. He's always going to be a great person. And that's just a quality that's just irreplaceable. So for me, Brian, he's just always going to be my brother.
And for the chat, I don't know why you guys, anytime someone's giving compliments, you call it deriding or you say, go hug him. Like, you guys need to grow up a little bit. You should be able to give compliments to an awesome teammate. So, Doug, never stop the positivity. I love it coming in here. Apathy for me as a commentator, I've always said it. He's a fucking X factor. He is the guy that you are going to see explode on the map. He is the guy that I sometimes will disappear. And I felt like you saw him in the first series disappear in that 5th game, search and destroy, but then came roaring back in the following series. So for me, it's always watch Apathy. He's going to be that one that turns up this Surge squad to the next level. And I'm going to keep my eyes on him because I think I know what I'm getting out of Octane. I still don't know what I'm getting out of the Old Guard and Apathy and Karma, and those are the 2 players I got eyes on. Will, when you're looking at the Surge, who do you think is the strength of this squad? Who are you looking at to be Mr. Consistent for them?
I'm probably a little biased, honestly, because a lot of these guys, it's been 6 or 7 years since I played, but Karma has got to be the guy. I've watched him quite a bit, spent a lot of time with him at the Optic House. He's super dedicated player, great in every single game mode. Not even just COD, he's just great at every game.
Anything he touches, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. He reminds me of like a Shroud or someone. He's like a console Shroud. So if anybody's going to turn up and kind of be the leader, like Doug said, if somebody's going to get in someone's face, yell, create a strategy, do something, it's got to be Karma that kind of pulls them out of the hole a little bit. He's a winner. All these guys, like, I keep looking at the roster, they're all winners. They all are. So they'll figure out a way to get it done. They were close matches that they had a couple of weeks ago. Like I said, I'm not going to give up on them. We'll see. Search and destroy in COD, maybe it's changed, and Doug can, interfere if you want. Maybe it's changed over the last 6 years and you can just consistently be a great COD team. If you're a pro player, you're going to steal some S&Ds throughout the year. I mean, it's just like there's no respawns. You're going to
get harder now, Will. Trust me.
Is it? Yeah.
It's a lot harder now. 5v5 makes it completely different.
5v5 makes it different for sure. But, there's just certain like timing things. You're just every once in a while you're going to get one. You're going to get one, and once they get that and they get a little bit of confidence, I think they'll figure it out, man. And I still, after the first podcast we did, I had Seattle, I think, at number 4 in my personal power rankings.
Yep.
I still think they get up there
you got
somewhere.
them in your top
Maybe
5
not
for
4.
sure.
Yeah, I think they get there eventually. So, like I said, I'm not counting them out.
All right, let's go over to Group B before we come back for the later rounds of Group A. Group B is going to feature, of course, London Royal Ravens, the Subliners, Paris Legion, and Toronto Ultra. As we take a look at the schedule, the first match is going to be the New York Subliners versus Paris Legion, a 2-0 Legion going up against an 0-2 New York Subliners. That's at 6 a.m., the opener of the entire event. Doug, we're not going to get your predictions here because, of course, they have to be biased. You got to believe in the team.
Subliners 3-0, baby.
But if you're looking at this matchup, where are the weaknesses of Paris, if anything?
Oh, it's hard to gauge it off of their first tournament because they went in there and they took care of business. They won both their games. I think they have a great respawn team. I really do. I think Kismet's going to be a player at the end of this year that people are going to have on their top 10. He's a great player, and he's only going to get better as the game. Yeah, he's only going to get better as the game goes on. I play tens with this kid every night. I know what I see out of this guy. He's a very driven guy. He's a very great player. He's consistent. He's an excellent search and destroy player. He's confident. He's their X factor. And, you know, you got Shocks who's going to consistently slay with dens and respawns. Again, I don't know too much about Luca, but I don't see a weakness with this team as of what I've seen so far. I think our team could pull it together and they could win. They're going to have to do a lot of game planning. They're going to have to watch a lot of VOD on them from Minnesota. But honestly, man, from top to bottom, I haven't seen any weakness from Paris yet. I think a lot of people underestimated them going into Minnesota. I think it's going to take some time to see some of their weaknesses as they start playing more teams in the league, starting with us. So I think we're going to have to go into that match expecting these guys to be amazing with incredible teamwork, and I'm expecting them to be very pesky, and I'm expecting them to do things that you're not going to predict. And I think if our team could come into that game with that mindset and with confidence too, we could come out and take that series. But I would not take them lightly.
Scary and intimidating. Are they like in your top 5?
I have them on the borderline. Yeah, I have them. Honestly, I might have them at number 4 right now. Honestly, I might have them at number 4 because I think Call of Duty, a lot of it is a combination, a lot of good talent, and also having a lot of good teamwork with desire to win. Because it's a very day-to-day game, as you know, Will. You could go into a match and you could destroy a team. You could play the next day, and they could destroy you. So I think if you could drop your egos, which I don't think this Paris team has any egos, and you could just go out there and perform, and you could play as a team, and then you also have some talent with it, I think this Paris team is one of those dark horses. So I rate them very high on my leaderboard, and I do not take them lightly.
Okay. Will, how do you see this match playing out for the Subliners? We know they didn't have the showing they wanted in Minnesota, but they've got some proven names on the roster as well. Is this one close? How did we see this one going?
Subliners 3-0.
Subliners 3-0 in Paris Legion.
Look, I need a hoodie. Throw it on me, bro.
Throw it on.
Let's
You
go,
look good
Lou.
in yellow. I like that. Accuracy attached. Zuma temp 0. Are you serious with the 3-0? You think they upset Paris?
Honestly, I think New York's going to come out and do better than they did a couple of weeks ago. I don't think it'll be a 3-0 either way. I think this will probably end up being like a 3-2 matchup. I mean, yeah, I look at New York's roster. They're extremely strong. They kind of remind me of a Seattle Surge. They're going to come out. They have winners. They know how to win. I think they're going to have the right mentality. And yeah, I think this is probably one of the toss-up matches for me. I think 3-2 either way. But if I had to give it to somebody, I'm gonna say 3-2 Paris just because they're over there across the pond. You got like the jet lag, and that's like serious stuff. Like you're traveling.
Paris is traveling from North Carolina to London.
Oh, are they?
Equal flight distance.
They actually have a little bit longer of a flight than we do.
Oh shit.
Doug throwing out some travel stats. I like this.
Like an extra 40 minutes, 30 minutes.
I like
40
this.
minutes.
Hey, listen, New York, I can't pick you until I see you again this weekend because what was happening in the hard points was not strong enough back in Minnesota. The domination playing against FaZe and seeing what they did there, very strong performance in that game 3. If they can play like that the entirety of the series, I think they don't even go to a game 5. But as of right now, I'm going to call this 3-1 in favor of Paris. Let's go to the other match here. Toronto Ultra versus the London Royal Ravens. London, if you watched them in Minnesota, looked fantastic in their first match. Second match, they get smashed in the mouth by the Legion. So how do we see this playing out when they go up against Methods in the Ultra team? Let's talk about Toronto first here.
Toronto's really interesting to me because they came out and I think they proved some people wrong in Minnesota. I thought people thought Toronto was going to be a joke. From what I heard online, they weren't performing the best or top of the group. They were more of a bottom tier team in online scrims. They have a bunch of different roster changes and substitutions happening. But personally, I can tell you, I think I know what I'm going to get out of Classic Looney and Methods because I've been playing against these guys for a long time. I've seen a lot from Cammy, and I think he's their X factor.
Killer Cam.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about him from their squad. They always gas him up to me. They always tell me how great he is. And I played against him the other night in tens, and he shows up, man. He guns people. Bance is a really interesting pick. I think Bance is a winner. I think he's good vibes. I think he plays as a team, and I think he plays to win. And from what I saw from him in the scrims, they were playing against the Huntsmen. Toronto, I believe, was losing the scrims, but Ben was dropping high 40s, high 30s every single hard
Are you
point.
expecting Bance in the starting lineup now? Because he was on the bench in Minnesota.
He's on the starting lineup going into this event.
Okay.
Oh.
He's gonna play, and he got the opportunity. So I just know as a person, he got second at COD Champs in Black Ops 3. He lost to my brother Apathy. I just know as a person who sits on the bench, if you get that call and you get to be a starter, there's no way you're not going to perform. You
Yep.
put in a lot of time to the game, and you're dying to get on the stage. Ben's been there before. He's been on the biggest stage. He's been a winner. This kid is going to come out. He's going to play well. So Toronto, I don't think they're going to get out of the group, but I do think Ben's going to show up. And even them, like these guys, top to bottom, although they're considered one of the more bottom tier teams in terms of obviously the standings and playing in online scrims, like this team could go out and win Series 2. Like they got an MVP, they got Looney who's won multiple events, you got Nick who's won multiple events. Cammy's he's a new player, he's playing really well. Ben, he's been there before. I think every single team, top to bottom, has great players. So if I had to predict, I don't think Toronto would get out, but I wouldn't be surprised if they came out and won a couple of
So
series.
who's coming out for Toronto?
So it'll
then
be
if
Metals
Francis
most
doesn't-
likely.
Correct.
Really? Because Metals
Yeah.
and Methods were the only two players with positive KDs.
But
So I
I was
wonder
talking
what
with
it was
Bance actually ahead of his Minnesota matches, and he said, I don't think I'm playing here, but I'm fighting for a spot in the starting roster. And I asked him, who is it up between? And he said, probably some of the younger guys, which I assume would be Cammy and Metals in that lineup when he's discussing it. Because you're definitely not going to take Looney, the captain, out. You're not going to take a guy like Classic out anytime soon. Bance, for those who don't know, was on Splice when Europe really made a statement. What was that? COD Champs? Was it IW, Doug? Was it before that?
Black Ops 3.
Black Ops 3. That's right. So I'm excited to see Bance back in this lineup. He was a monster in Black Ops 3. The question I have also is, who has the fan base backing them up here? Because Killer Cam, he's from the UK. So the folks in London might just adopt this Toronto lineup in this matchup.
That'd be nice. No, there's no way they don't cheer for the Royal Raven. That's like
The full Royal Ravens. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That's gotta
definitely.
be the one match
You're right.
I'm
Not,
excited about.
not in this matchup, but maybe later on in the group, I should have said. Let's talk about the London Royal Ravens, though, because which one are we getting in this matchup? Are we getting the one we saw the first match back in Minnesota, or are we getting the team that struggled in their second match against Paris?
I want the one where Weskins whips out the sniper on Piccadilly and just starts peeling wigs through smoke grenades and just fucking murking everybody. I just want to see some highlight plays out of that team. I want to see the crowd go nuts. London, you need to step up for the home squad. I want to see it.
Douglas,
expect Toronto to play well.
expectations here.
I expect them to come out and play very well. I think London is a great team. I think they showed it. I think Dylan has so much raw skill. I mean, if you ever watch this guy play, whenever the broadcast goes in him, he's just a different player, man. There's only a few players like him out there, and this kid is only going to get better as time goes on. They have a great combination of players who are fast, annoying, tedious, and also slow, boring, and methodical, like Raiden and Wuskin. But if you
Slow, boring, and methodical. I love that description.
You
Put
need
me to
those.
sleep, man. Yeah, I gotta watch VOD on that. I go to sleep watching that sometimes. It's boring, man. These guys don't move. But when you got players like Jordan Dillon running around the map, flying at everything, getting first engagements and winning their first bloods in hills and domination in search and destroy, you got players like Wuskin and Rated backing them up, and then Scraps, who's one of the best baiters in Call of Duty. You got some great talent on that team. They got the home crowd behind them. I know they're going to be really passionate about this. And if I was a player playing for London and I'm from the UK and I'm playing on my first homestand, I will show up and I will play well. And I think a lot of these guys have that exact same mindset. I think they're going to thrive and they're going to feed off of that. And they're going to be a very difficult team to beat, especially playing in front of their home crowd. It's not going to be easy.
Will, looking at the numbers, who is their best player for the London Royal Ravens back in Minnesota? Because Wuskin, as you mentioned, he was popping off in that search. I remember he said, I felt like I was hacking in my post-game interview.
Yeah, the Ravens, they just played really good as a team on average, like their KD, their respawn, their Dom KDs. Wuskins had a 1.6 overall KD, though, is number one in the CDL. So he actually absolutely turned up. Now, we don't have a ton of, games to base that off of. But like Doug was saying, I think they're going to come out homestand, and I think he's just going to continue to play. He didn't seem, they interviewed him. Was it you that interviewed him after those matches? Yeah, he didn't seem like it was getting to him. He didn't, he wasn't overly excited. There was no ego in what he was saying. He was like, I pulled out the sniper and I just started shooting people. So as long as he keeps that same attitude and the team, just continues to communicate and kind of stay on an even keel, I think they'll be good. But I'm looking for Weskins to continue to dominate a little bit.
Are we all calling the Royal Ravens to win this one?
For sure.
All right. So looking at Doug, you agree? Yeah, we're good. So
I think the New York Subliners are going to win the pool.
You think Subliners are winning the pool? So let's talk about that second round. So Subliners versus the Royal Ravens. How does that matchup go down if it happens?
Well, I think that London really humiliated us in Minnesota. I didn't think that the players expected London to come out and play with that intensity, and I thought our team showed up flat. And I know that they're really disappointed in themselves. I know that they really took that to heart. Just being around the guys and being behind closed doors. I'm not going to repeat the things that we talked about, but I know that it really bothered them that they lost. And I know that if they have a chance of redemption, they're going to do their best they can to win. And like I said, like these are just players, especially Zoom and Attach. These are players that I've known for so long, and they're just winners. They just win and they find ways to get a dub. So I can't imagine them coming out and being as flat as they did in Minnesota. I think they're going to come out with a different team. They changed a couple of things. They made some adjustments. And I think they're going to really take that L personal. And I think they're going to come out and they're going to win.
Is it possible to gain anything from watching the VOD?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Especially in Search and Destroy. I mean, you can learn everything about a team in Search and Destroy. And that was one of our weaknesses. As you guys saw, we lost 6-2 and 6-0. So that's something that we're really going to try to refine. And I think a lot of it also has to play with momentum too. If you come out flat and then you go into a Search and Destroy and you don't have strategies and you get 6-0 humiliated, it's really hard to come back from that going into a game 3. Yeah. So I think if we come out with a better intensity, if we get that first map win, if we could do our job in Search and Destroy and watch the VOD, I think the sky's the limit for our team. And I thought that Minnesota was a wake-up call for us, and we're going to come out with a different team here in London.
Looking at the alternate matchup that we could see here would be Paris Legion versus London, right? That would be our second matchup. Will, what are the chances that London fixes the mistakes they made against Paris the first time around?
Honestly, the way Doug's talking about them, it might not even matter. You got me scared of Paris Legion, and I'm not even playing. So if they're really like as good as you say they are, there's certain teams, in certain games, it doesn't really matter how good you play. They're going to play better than you if they're on top of their game. The best teams in the game, they come in, they don't think about, like whenever you're on top, you don't think about the other teams and what they're doing. You just know that if you play at the top of your game and you play the way you should, you're just going to beat everybody. So if Paris gets into that sort of mode, it's probably not going to matter what London does.
The
Paris
scores
might just steamroll them.
Yeah, scores last time, 250 to 214 Paris on Ramaza Hardpoint. The Search went to 10 rounds. That was 6-4 on Arklov Peak. And then Gunrunner was 191 to 169 in favor of Paris. Doug, is that domination score, is that considered a blowout? What is a big win in domination?
Well, I mean, that's like a 20-point game, so I don't think that's considered a blowout. I think anything passing 35 to 45 points starts getting in that range where it's like, all right, for a majority of this game, you have been one-capped. You have not been able to get out of your base, and you're just been consistently outslayed. So I thought that London put up a fight. I mean, taking it 6-4, I believe Paris was up 4-0 in that game, and then it went to 4-4, and then they won it 6-4. But I think Paris just, again, like they remind me a lot of that AW team, Revenge. Remember the
TR, baby. Bryce Vicento and crew.
These guys remind me a lot of that, and that's a team that's just not going to just give up easy. Like every single map, they're going to come into that no matter how bad or how good they played the map before. They're going to come out and they're going to bring their A game. And these guys got a lot to prove because they've been the punching bag of the league since the league has began. Nobody's really thought highly of them. They got players who haven't, won anything in major events, and they're all very talented. So if you're a team and you're really talented and you haven't won anything, the only thing you care about is getting the win. You don't care about your other teammates, how good or bad they're performing. You only care about your own individual play. And when it comes down to just focusing on yourself and truly just caring about how you can make your team better, it makes it really difficult for a team to beat you. So like I was saying to you guys earlier, and like I was that team is going to be a really tough out, no matter how well or how bad they play on a map. They're always going to come back. And I don't think Paris will lose to London, to be honest. I think that it will happen again. I think London's going to have the crowd behind them. They're going to be ready. I just think Paris is going to beat them because I just think they match up really well versus them.
Paris kind of just doesn't have much to lose either. You know, they come out and they're ranked last by just about everybody. Like you
Yeah.
said, they've kind of been a punching bag. Like, what are they gonna? They're just gonna come out and play with, you know, not a lot of pressure or ego or anything. That's normally when people do perform their best. So that's the one team after this this podcast I'm gonna be watching real close.
I think all eyes need to be on Kismet and Paris. And I'm just going to keep saying that until Kismet becomes the face of this team. Yes, you have three Australians, but you can't pick one out of those three. You got to go with the North American, the loudmouth, the trash talker. Kismet is going to be the heart and the soul of the squad throughout the year. I'm calling it now. Let's talk about the match that everyone in chat has been begging me to start the discussion on since the beginning. Chicago Huntsmen, Dallas Empire, round 2, ding, ding, ding. This could be our Group A matchup for the first spot in the bracket, the number 1 seed for Group A. Last time around, it was Azir Cave, 250 to 209 in favor of Chicago. Dallas then comes punching right back, takes Search and Destroy on Arklov Peak 6-1, and then it was Chicago with a 50-point win on Hackney Yard domination. Going into Gunrunner, they won that one decisively, 250 to 173 in Hardpoint. So you heard Scump say at the end of it, we took every single respawn against them. Search and Destroy went their way, but they feel super confident on the Huntsman side. We've talked about Dallas improving, Shotzi and Illy feeling better in their second event together with the Empire. What are the expectations in the rematch? Doug, let's start with you. If I told you right now, it's loading up, Huntsman, Dallas Empire on the main stage, who do you pick in the moment?
Dallas 3-2.
Dallas 3-2.
Dallas 3-2. I think
Search and Destroy.
Absolutely, Chris. Dallas, even though Dallas came out, I thought they played. If you're gonna tell me that Shotzi is gonna go 7 or like 8-35 in a domination, and you're gonna lose your hard points by like 25 points and 80 points, and you're gonna win the search decisively when your team is playing so bad, I can't imagine it being much worse than that. And I think the nerves got to them. I think they lied to you if they say they weren't nervous.
Okay.
I think they have equal talent to Huntsman, and I think the thing that separates Huntsman and Dallas is that I think the egos on Huntsman is definitely the biggest in the league. These guys have been some of the most successful players as individuals, as accolades with COD Champs MVPs, with MVPs of regular tournaments, with highest KDs in the leaderboard. Like, these guys definitely have big egos, and when things go wrong, Gunless is going to be pointing fingers at other players, no matter what happens. Like, this guy, Gunless, is the most talented player I've ever seen in my life, but he's also the same exact dude that even if you're up 2-0 in a best of 5 to win champs and you lose that game 3, he will scream at you when he has no right in doing that. Like, he's just a wild card and he's going to go loose. So they won the first match. You know, Dallas was talking a lot of smack. Formal and Scum came out and they were, you know, they let them have it because they came out Dallas. But I just think Dallas is a very well-oiled machine. And I think that they have a great balance of players who don't have egos and who also have egos. Like, Crim and Clay have big egos. I don't think Hook, Shotzi, or Illy have an ego at all. And I think they want to be the best in the game. And I think they're going to look at that match versus the Huntsmen in Minnesota. They're going to watch their VOD. They're going to come out and they're going to perform. And I don't see Chicago Huntsmen beating Dallas in a search. And I think Dallas could beat Chicago in a respawn. So for that reason, I'm going to say that Chicago's going to lose that and Dallas is going to win 3-2.
What's Chicago's problem with search in your mind? Why do you or is it just Dallas is so strong?
I just think Dallas is so strong. I think Chicago is a great, great, great team. I think they're top 3. I think they could win an event. But I think they let off a lot of those emotions in that first match in Minnesota. And will they still be upset? And will they still have a chip on their shoulder with what Crim said? Yes. Are they going to play well? Probably. But I don't see them beating them in a search. I think Dallas is just the best search team right now. Them and Atlanta are just 1A and 1B. And they're just ahead. And I think they just have better search players. I think they have a better search team. And I just think that they're overall, I think they're going to win that 3-2.
All right, Big Will, your turn to chime in. What's the expectation?
Huntsman 3-1 until proven otherwise. Dude, look, if there's one thing we've learned after the last couple of weeks, it's that stuff on paper is really not translating yet to in game. So until some things get proven and some people step up, I got to go with what I know. Now, I do agree with you on the ego. That is definitely the Huntsmen. I love those dudes, but it's a momentum-based team. Like, if they're winning, it's going to snowball.
Well, you can tell them to their face, you guys got huge egos, and it's not going to change their egos. They
No,
know
of
it.
course not. Oh, they like it, but
They love it.
you
Yeah,
know,
they
it
love
works both ways. Like it helps them as long as the snowball is rolling in the right direction. Right. But if it starts going the other way, then yes, it could be bad. But until that ball stops rolling their way, I gotta stay on the side of the momentum. And I'm signed as a content creator at NRG, so I gotta say 3-1 Huntsman.
3-1 Huntsman. Hey, it's all about the brand. You gotta
Straight up.
respect.
Do it for the brand.
I've only heard incredible things about Arcides though, and this comes from his teammates. It comes from Gunless. It comes from Scump. It comes from Formal talking great stuff about his teammate. It comes from the producers to the referees
Comes
backstage.
from the stats.
Like
Look at the stats.
the numbers. I feel like if you're looking at a guy who probably is going to have an ego in 2 years, but is probably going to become a fan favorite this year. I'm looking at Arcides. I think the guy is an awesome story, and it's exciting to see him so far with the success with the Huntsman. This, though, I think is going to be the most watched match of the weekend, without a doubt, if it happens. Is there a chance that it happens twice? Could we see Dallas Empire and the Huntsman both coming out of their group and then rematching in the grand finals? Are they the top two teams, or do you feel that someone in the other group should be able to knock them off, Doug?
It is possible for them to rematch in the finals, especially because I do think that it's clear cut those two teams will advance out of their group, meaning that if they both advance out of their group and one of those teams wins their first round match, it doesn't matter about the other team winning or losing the first round match. They're only going to have to win 2 games in order to play in the grand finals and rematch versus each other. So in a tournament structure like this, it'll be very likely that they replay each other. But I do think that there are other teams that can beat one of these two teams. I don't think it's clear cut that Huntsman or Dallas will win this entire tournament. There definitely are challengers to those two teams. It's not like they're all the way up here and everybody else is all the way down there. Like I said, it's a very long season. We only saw 2 matches from these teams last week. For sure. And they were hand-picked matches specifically for storylines. So we'll see what happens, man. Call of Duty is a day-to-day game. And although those guys are the favorites and they are able to rematch each other in the finals, especially with this tournament structure, I don't think that it's just a clear lock guarantee that they're going to play again in the finals.
Who do you think are the threats right now to these 2 top teams? Who else is in your top 4 that are competing in London?
I would say regarding, I don't want to get my team involved in it because I just want to
keep the subliners neutral at 3-ish.
I want to keep the subliners out of it, but I do think that Paris is a team that could rival one of those 2 teams. I really want to see, that would be the ultimate test for this Paris team because I saw really good things out of these guys in the first event. They didn't play the top teams. They didn't play Atlanta. They didn't play against Chicago. They didn't play against Dallas. Even though Dallas is number 2, I still consider them in the top 3. They didn't play against these teams. I would really want to see more than anything Paris Legion going up against the Dallas Empire, right? I want to see them play Dallas Empire. Then I want to see them play against Chicago Huntsman. I want to see where these guys stand because I think if you take a team like that, they could rival one of those top teams. I really believe it because I've seen it happen so many times in history.
I want to see that too. And the guy to watch, you think, is Zed. That's who I'm going to be laser focused on. Zed and Kismet.
I'm with that. Also, I mean, you look at the Australian. They've been strong forever. They've been consistent, but look for Shocks to just drop some major numbers randomly in a respawn. He'll be in the high 40s, so keep an eye on that man as well. Looking at the potential matchups that we could have in the playoffs here, if we're looking at our 2 groups, we're really high on Paris so far. Of course, that's based off of their performance and the energy that they showed us back in Minnesota. We know Toronto Ultra, not favorites coming in this one. Subliners are Royal Ravens, probably fighting for their chance to get out of the group. Is there anyone that, I guess, let's go back to the other group as we look at the Surge, Empire, and Huntsman. Is there anyone that, after losing to each other, either the Huntsman or the Empire, would either of those teams falter against the Surge? Is there a chance we see either the LA Guerrillas or the Surge making it out of the group play?
I would be very surprised if that were the case. I mean, like we said, some momentum, goes the wrong way and people start yelling at each other and getting down. It's possible, but I mean, everybody on Chicago and Dallas, I mean, they're mentally strong players. I couldn't really see that happening. I got Dallas and Chicago coming out of that group. So do you see
Dallas falling to either the Royal Ravens, Paris Legion, or the Subliners, Will?
Paris Legion, maybe. That's the toss-up, and I'm only going. Doug is saying, like I said, that's the one team after this podcast I'm the most excited to watch. So I got to see. We got 2 matches from all these teams a couple weeks ago, which is all well and good. But this is going to be the first, group play, bracket performances, and real tournaments for real points. This is going to be the first, wake up call for a lot of these teams. So I'm just pumped to see everybody play, man. I just want to see some good matches.
Understood. All right. I think at this point, I just need to ask you guys who wins the whole thing. Who comes out with the 50-point bonus to their overall standings? As we take a look at the standings right now, it's FaZe, Huntsman, Rocker, and Legion with 20 points. Mutineers, Royal Ravens, Gorillas, and Ultra all tied for 5th at 10 points. The Surge, Optic Gaming, who won't be competing, Empire, and Subliners looking for their first points of the season. So, who walks away with the 50-point bonus? Douglas, let's start with you.
Not putting my team into this because I would be very biased. I would have to say it's the Dallas Empire. I think they're the best search and destroy team at this tournament. I think that top to bottom, they have an incredible roster. And I can't imagine a world, like you were saying before, is there any way that the Seattle Surge upset the Empire? The only way Seattle beats the Empire is that the Empire comes out and plays as horrible as they did at Minnesota. Like I said, I've just seen these guys play this game so much. I've watched so much VOD on all of these players and this team, and they really are that impressive. And I think they're going to come out with a chip on their shoulder, just like how Chicago Huntsmen did come out in Minnesota. They had a chip on their shoulder. They played against Dallas and they won. I think it's going to be a reverse role this time around. I think that the Dallas Empire will beat the Chicago Huntsmen. I think Pierce is going to lose his mind.
Okay.
And I think it's going to fall into the team.
Chat, I love it. Everyone is saying Doug is wrong. Doug is blasted. Doug is drunk. Doug is way off. I want to see.
I'm drinking a mojito because I'm in London. It's 1 a.m.
Hey,
but I'm not blasted, though.
Enjoy that, my friend. It's his first mojito of the night, of course. Will, who are you going with? Doug's calling the Dallas Empire. Are you all Huntsmen throughout this?
The snowball keeps rolling. I'm going Chicago Huntsmen.
Going Chicago. I think the London Royal Ravens finished 3rd. I'm just gonna call it now, or they'll tie for 3rd, 4th as they go out in the semifinals. I think it is Dallas. I think it's Chicago in the final, and I think Crim 6 gets his revenge. Historically, for all the UK events, who has a better record? Is it Scump or is it Crim?
I don't have the stat sheet on that.
Do you guys have the
Puckett.
numbers here? This is something I probably should have looked up way before because I'm going back to Gfinity here on CODpedia. G3 was formal winning that event.
Don't go back to G2. I remember that one. That one wasn't.
G2 was no good.
No.
I don't know. I feel like also though back in those days we had a lot of fun at the events and it was less about the competition and more about exploring the UK a bit. But now it's COD League time, so things get a little bit more serious.
Doug, I'm calling it now. Kyler MVP. Kyler and Illy are too talented to not be able to win a tournament.
Hook
They're just
and
too
Illy.
good at Call of Duty. Yeah, they're too good at Call of Duty. I play with these guys a lot, man. They're too good at Call of Duty. I haven't seen players like this. Like they're just too good to not be able to win. You put them with Crim and Clay. It doesn't even matter if Shots is going to go 8-36. Like this team is just too talented, top to bottom, to not be able to win a tournament.
He's not going to go 8-36 again, though. There's no I saw that stat line and I was just like, what? How does it happen? That's not going to happen twice. It won't.
He said it's because of the slide cancel. They changed slide canceling,
Yes.
and they changed the patch. We're playing on a different patch. Some teams play better on it than others. So I think Shotzi's great too. He's gonna have to prove himself. But Kyler and Illy specifically, those two kids are so talented. They're gonna have to get a chip eventually.
I like it. He's not even calling out Clayster and Crim, not going for the old guards. He's calling out the young guns to be the game changers. Doug, the chat definitely disagrees with you, but I think you might be right at the end of the weekend. I'm excited to see what your subliners can do. Very rough start. New York trying to gain some momentum before we're heading to Atlanta will be the 3rd event of the year. Anything you want to say about London before we let you go, Doug? I know it's 1:10 in the morning over there.
I'm sorry, you just cut out for a second. You said 1:10 in the morning?
Yeah, it's 1:10 in the morning over there. Anything last you want to hit about this London event before we let you go?
Yeah, I think this London event is going to be truly incredible. I think these fans really show up here and they're very passionate about this esport. And I'm really excited to see how this tournament's going to play out. Very small tournament, only 8 teams. Every match is very important. Teams are going to have to play in their A game. And I can't wait to see how teams are going to show out. And I'm just really excited to be a part of this.
Who is the one player to watch at the event?
Illy. It's got to be Illy.
All eyes on Illy.
All eyes on Illy, man. It's gotta be on Illy.
Big timer, who's your one player to watch?
I'm like a Weskin stan now. I don't know. I'm gonna keep until he
Weskin
stops
all
doing
day.
what he's doing. Yeah, I like watching Weskins play, man. I want to hear him interviewed again too. He just seems like a good guy. So yeah, I want to see what he can do.
I am looking forward to the return of Envoy to the main stage. The Huntsman Silent Wonder. Everyone bigs up the other teammates, but Envoy's name, no one really talking about the guy. Keep an eye on that young man coming into this event. Chat, any final questions for my boys? If not, that is going to be the conclusion of the CODTACULAR podcast, episode 3. Douglas, before you go, we got to plug where you're going to be at. If people aren't seeing you compete in London, where can they catch you?
Just follow me on any social, every single social that I have. Censor. I keep you guys up to date with the subliners. My experience here in London. You know, I'm gonna make a couple of vlogs while I'm out here. I'm gonna go to the Gymshark HQ on Thursday.
Nice.
Make some, maybe meet up with the Sidemen too and do collabs with them as well. So everything's kind of in early stages right now, but I'm really happy to be here. I love coming to London, and I just can't wait for this tournament to start.
Hey, before the podcast, Doug said, I'm going to be playing. I want to be the face of this league. I think you would be the perfect face of the Call of Duty League, and I can't wait to see you return into championship form. Douglas, keep on that grind, brother.
I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you.
Big Willie, any final thoughts before we go? Doug, we're going to let you go right here. Just Big Willie time.
Yeah, so enjoy the matches, everyone. I predict that it will be a fun weekend to watch regardless. Also, I just want to say February 13th, I'm going to be in Chicago with some of these. Wait, is it formal? No, Scump, Arcides, someone, and myself, Hector, Andy Miller. We're going to be in Chicago with Usman. We're going to be with some NBA All-Stars as well, playing some games. So check out my Twitter, check out the NRG Twitter as well. And yeah, come out, bring some hand sanitizers. Don't be bringing like the Wuhan virus.
Yeah,
I know it's
when was that event again?
Times.
You cut out there.
It's February 13th. February 13th from 2 to 6 p.m. We're at, I believe, 610 South Michigan Avenue. But if you go to Twitter, you can find the exact location. We'll be playing some games with some NBA All-Stars. So y'all come out. And like I said, just, you know, think about hygiene when we're shaking hands.
What is the ideal Valentine's Day gift they could bring you on Feb 13?
Man, I would love. So I miss Chicago. The reason I love Chicago so much was the food. I've been mapping out. I'm going to be there for like 24 hours and I'm just mapping out all the food I could get. So if you bring me like some chicken from Nando's or a lobster roll from De Lobster, maybe you give me a steak from Bavette's or something, any kind of food from Chicago, some Portillo's, like a piece of chocolate cake or something. Ooh. Just don't mess with it beforehand. I would love that.
There you go. Win over Big Will Valentine's Day. That's February 13th. For now, though, enjoy the games. They kick off. Once again, it's going to be 6 a.m. on Saturday, February 8th. If you're here on the East Coast, 3 a.m. if you're over on that West Coast. And if you're in the UK, it's morning time. So enjoy the show. It's going to be the Call of Duty League. I'm going to be working with the NYXL. So if you guys want to watch some Overwatch League, we are kicking off the same weekend. And then I'll be headed to Atlanta to catch you guys with some more Call of Duty. Thank you all for joining CODTACULAR episode 3. Check out the rest of the videos on YouTube, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 7